There is excitement, but there is also fear. Not only for you, but for the world at large. There is a threshold, a very important threshold. The planetary configurations enable each one to leave behind all those pathways that do not serve them anymore. They help you to be ruthless in removing the weeds from your garden and to move onto ways that you can now initiate. Do not be content with the old. Do not be content with expanding the old. Do not be content with modifying the old. Initiate something new. These planetary configurations do not come very often. Make use of it. Use the power of the current configurations in order to create the changes that you shall will. These changes are personal to each one, but a gentle note of caution. If your energy matrix is ready to initiate the changes, but your personality holds on to paths that are tried and tested and old and obsolete, the energy matrix will release a huge surge of crystalline current that shall be used to create those situations that shall perforce bring about the changes that your energies seek. And such forced upon changes are never pleasant. So why not make use of the threshold that the universe has provided to you and initiate the changes willingly, consciously, with an alignment between your personality and your soul? You may ask of us, what do I change? Where do I begin the change? How do I change? Our answer, beloved ones, is that you know this already. Deep within you, you know this already. There is not one on this earth who does not know what to change, who does not know where to start, who does not know how to make that change. But there are many who do not wish to acknowledge that these changes have to be made. They do not wish to take the power of initiation into their own hands. Today we wish to speak to you about the energy of this threshold that we speak of. And yes, though it is universal, you may call it a global threshold that you are currently standing upon. Ever since you have been infants, personal thresholds, personal portals have come to you from time to time. And often it is in hindsight that you can go back and remember and understand what the threshold was. But the time for hindsight awareness is receding. You now must be aware as experiences take place, as they come to you, as they happen to you. Because remember what we have said, all experiences happen for you. Every time you have to move beyond the threshold, there is an energy leap that takes place. To move from one side of the threshold to another involves a huge leap in your energy structure. In fact, when you look back upon it, you shall notice that that experience at that threshold changed you so completely that in some ways you have stopped being who you were. And in other ways, you changed significantly, but so naturally that you were not even aware that these changes were taking place within you. Personal changes are very different from the changes brought about by thresholds, cosmic thresholds. For example, you may one day decide that having alcohol every day is causing you ill health, and you shall stop that habit. And that is a change, a personal change, a good personal change. But it is not a cosmic threshold change. So, how will you recognize a cosmic threshold when it comes for you? When you are upon a threshold, your inner being shouts for the shift, the change. It makes you cosmically restless. It refuses to allow you to be satisfied with who you are and where you are and what you are doing. It yells for change. It is aware. The inner being is aware of the change that is required of you, mind, body, and soul. And the inner being strongly urges you to create it as a manifested reality. A threshold change is therefore a change in you as a being. It is not about giving up a habit or taking on another positive habit. It is a change in who you are as a being. But at this point, two forces of equal strength come into play, butting heads against each other. One is the strength of spirit. It has already experienced the new state even before you, as a human being, can experience that state. And the other force is the force of the persona, which, having not yet experienced the new state, wishes to maintain the status quo. The persona fights change. This butting of two strong forces creates conflict. And beloveds, never underestimate the force that your persona exerts over you. Your persona does not wish to change. It wants to remain the same. Sadly, it wants to remain the same even when it knows that the same patterns shall continue, the same hurt, the same unpleasantness. There are many, many in your world today whose force of the persona is so much stronger than the force of their spirit. They haven't yet allowed the spirit to awaken completely. For those whose spirit has awakened significantly, even those still often buckle under the force of their persona. Because spirit does not impose itself upon you, but persona does. When these two forces collide, a set of circumstances come into play. And these circumstances create what seem to be hurdles in your path of transformation. Yes, you have heard us right. The collision of these two forces create what appears to you as hurdles, stopping you from transforming in the way you desire, stopping you from changing in the way that you choose to. You could call these so-called hurdles the gatekeepers of the threshold. Only those who are in the fullness of certainty of the change can pass through the keen watch of the gatekeepers. These hurdles could be likened to a test that is given to you. Is your desire for the transformation 100% certain? For if it is even 99%, that 1% of uncertainty shall create the hurdles, the gatekeepers of the threshold. That 1% can be responsible for the transformation not taking place. Let us here give you a very interesting fact. When you are young, a child or a teenager, the threshold gatekeepers use your parents, your guardians, your teachers, your elders. The gatekeepers use these very significant persons in order to create the hurdles. Of course, these parents and guardians and elders are looking out for your best interest, but they also voice your own doubts. They often wish you to maintain the status quo because that is your persona force that is imposing itself upon them. They question the validity of the transformation that you seek. And often these gatekeepers prevent you from crossing the threshold. But if the force of spirit, even in one so young, if the force of spirit is strong enough to overcome the force of persona, the gatekeepers throw open the doors of the threshold and shower you with a plethora of gifts. And thus, as a child, you moved from threshold to threshold, or maybe you did not move. But whether you moved or you did not move, each experience made you evaluate the strength of your faith. And this is what happens even now when you are an adult. These hurdles, these gatekeepers demand that you evaluate the strength of your faith. Many of you have questioned what is the difference between imagination and fantasy. Imagination has its roots in the strength of spirit, and fantasy has its roots in the strength of persona. Imagination uses the strength of spirit in order to co-create the reality that you seek. Fantasy uses the strength of persona to fantasize, to dream, but not to execute. Because if you were to execute, persona would have to change. Sometimes your friends become your gatekeepers even when you are an adult. They voice doubts for you. They shake your faith. They question your beliefs. And sometimes you get annoyed by what you believe is a negative response. The next time this should happen, do not allow yourself to be frustrated. Ask yourself, is my friend a gatekeeper? Is this a moment of cosmic threshold? Am I being asked to evaluate the strength of my spirit, the strength of my faith, the power of my conviction, the strength of my desire and choice to transform? Every leap in your ascension requires of you courage and determination. For every threshold seems like a risk that you have to take. And when the threshold comes to you in the disguise of a risk, doubts befall you and fears stop you from making the transformation that your spirit strongly urges you to make. But at this time, ask yourself one question. Just one question. Do I have more to lose or more to gain? You must be aware of the losses that you are fearing. But you must also be aware of all that you stand to gain. And this question cannot be answered completely truthfully by your intellect, by your lower mind. For your lower mind is a very important part of your persona. You have to ask this question of your spirit. Spirit does not speak to you through your thoughts. Spirit can talk to you when you are silent. Spirit talks to you deep within yourself. So you have to learn how to be silent. You have to learn how to, if not still your thoughts, allow your thoughts to come and go without holding on to them. You have to learn to be still, to turn inwards, to connect to your higher self, to connect to your higher soul, to connect to your higher consciousness. And in the stillness of that connection, your spirit shall speak to you. And you have to learn this. In every situation, in every experience that comes for you, you shall always be able to see a certain element of loss and a certain element of gain. But along with the material gain, do not forget to acknowledge the gain of personal power, the gain of happiness, the gain of fulfillment, the gain of passion. Do not weigh everything in the scales that the earth gives you, that the material world demands that you use. And today you and the world are at this humongous threshold, a threshold of such change and such magnitude and such power that it has rarely been seen. If you could sit still now, if you could go deep within yourself now, if you could deeply connect with your higher self and your higher consciousness now, then you shall know the change that is most significant for you now. And without an excuse, and without doubt, and without fear, you shall make that change. At this stage in your life, at this stage in your ascension, you are your own gatekeeper. You now cannot blame your parents, your elders, your friends, your loved ones. Now is the time for you to envision the reality that you seek. Now is the time for you to take on the responsibility of creating a living experience that you wish to manifest for yourself, and not only for yourself, but may we ask you to do that for the world as well. Create joy. Make joy a reality. Joy is not an emotion. Joy is a state of existence. Joy is an experience. Create joy. If you are still going to distract yourself by merely praying and merely chanting or pleading with divine forces, you shall find that you will not cross this magnificent threshold. The power of the prayer lies within you. You, your higher self, your higher consciousness answers the prayer. Who are you pleading with? The universe is yours to command. touch your highest potential and command the universe, but you can touch your highest potential only when you have connected with your higher self. Only when your higher consciousness becomes your everyday living consciousness. It is very important for you to recognize that Spirit listens to your command. Spirit listens to your every command. But let us hasten to explain this. Let us give you an example. You may be caught in an abusive relationship or in a situation that is very, very unpleasant, damaging almost. And you command your spirit to help you to change that experience for yourself, not for the other, for yourself. But then you complain, Spirit has not helped me to change that. Then it is not true that Spirit listens to my every command, for I have commanded and Spirit has not heard, Spirit has not answered. Spirit does not listen to your words. Spirit listens to the command of your energies. If your energies in that situation of abuse remain the same, if you continue to contribute to that abuse, Spirit shall listen to the command of your energy, and the command of your energy is, I desire to remain in this situation because I do not choose to change. If a situation is not changing in spite of your command, look at yourself, turn inwards, once again connect to your higher self. How are you contributing to that situation? You may say, but I am not the abuser. And you may not be the abuser, but you are still contributing to the experience that you are living through. And you must take responsibility for this, beloveds. You must take responsibility for this. Spirit listens to the command of your energy, and your energies make you change. Your energies transform you. Your energies move you through the threshold. And when you continue to judge, and when you continue to speak ill of, and when you continue to be frustrated, and when you continue to criticize, and when you continue to condemn, your energies are not changing. The force of your persona is not abating. Every leap of energy is accompanied by a certain degree of fear released by the persona. And that is natural when you are a human being. Don't attempt to fight the fear shall get stronger. Recognize it, understand it, but do everything that you can to strengthen the spirit. Connect to your higher self, connect to your higher consciousness. That is all you need to do to empower your spirit. Do not be satisfied with who you are today, for you have not reached your highest potential. Every day, leave behind a little bit more of your persona. Every day. Beloved gatekeepers, open those thresholds. The universe awaits you on the other side. Greetings from light.